And I want to thank you for the confidence to be the president of IoT. I think the tenants' rights and the fight for our rights doesn't stay in the national border. We need to work together, our countries. But I want to say something about me. I want to present me because the reason I stand here today was that someone knocked at my door in 1985. It was a representative from the Swedish Union of Tenants. I was newly moved into my apartment. It was a new built area in Stockholm. And I lived there with small children. And the new built houses, we started not to feel so well in them. Our children became ill, they had allergic things, and we started to wonder, is the houses okay? And we contacted our landlord, and they said, you imagine, the houses is okay. And then we started to get engaged in the Swedish Union of Tenants. A couple of years later, we were right. There was pollutions in the floors. There was problem with the ventilation, and they had to put all floors up. We couldn't have achieved that if we had done it all by ourselves as tenants. We achieved the change because we went together as a union and we made the negotiations with the landlord, so they had to rebuild our houses. And that's one of the ways you can do things to make a change. And we do that kind of change every day by the tenants' union all over the world. We can start in the neighborhood with a question that concerns tenants right where they live, and then we know we have a lot of struggles to do in our countries. That's why the way, as Barbara said, we have to work with solidarity, because the stronger needs to support the weaker. But we also have to learn from each other. I remember the Congress in Glasgow, all the pictures from the tenants' organizations, the situation all over the world. I brought them back with me to Sweden, and I realized that this is so important that we work together all over the world. And you never know when you need help. Sometimes you think we are a strong organization in Sweden, but you never know when you need help. And that's what solidarity about. We help each other and we learn from each other. We live in a world now with big migration, urbanization, and with global capitals that makes our home to something to earn money from. I think it's important that EUT needs to be the voice that makes a difference. We must be the voice for safe and affordable housing for all people around the world. We must be the movement that remains politicians about the UN Global Goals, number 11. That goal says, ensure access for all to adequate and safe and affordable housing and basic service and upgrade slum. And the UN has stand by that goal, and a lot of countries have stand by that goal. It's in 11 years from now. In 11 years from now, we're going to achieve that in the whole world. Then I think it's important that EUT is reminding the politicians about this goal, because it's a human right and it's so important that we do that. We need in the IT to work with against skyrock rents. We need to work against renovations, luxury renovation. We see it all over the world, that people have to leave their home when they are renovated. And we also have to say no to homelessness. Last week, I met the former President Sven Bergenstråle. He has been the president for IoT for 9 years. He has done so many good things. And I want you all to thank him for the good work he has done for 9 years with a round of applause. And I hope he hear it now all the way to Malmö, and he's now the president of a local tenant organization. He will still be fighting for the tenants' right. I asked Sven, what's your experience for the 9 years as a president? What do you think is the most important thing that I take with me? The first thing he said, you must still go on that housing is a human right. You need to do that very thoroughly. Then he also said, you must realize that the EUT is a solidarity movement. We need to work together to achieve the goals about that everyone should have a safe home. So I think we have some good papers to stand on. Barbara told us today. I think the EUT position paper that the board was decided last spring is a very good one to stand on. We also have the action plan, but we also today have this book letter that tells us stories about our countries. And we can learn from this book, and we can take it back with us to talk to people, to politicians on the national level when we get back. But we can also use it to move further on in the rights of everyone's living. And on Monday, it's the International Tenants' Day. Then we have a good statement that the board decided on yesterday. It's a good statement. We need to go home in every country now to talk about tenants' rights. I come from a country that has a strong tenants, union of tenants, but I also come from a country where a little small girl has been striking for the climate for over a year. She has been sitting outside our parliament. She has been alone. A lot of times she has been alone. But now you know, the last week, she wasn't alone anymore. Young people were standing up all over the world for the climate. And I think that we also need to be a part of that climate change movement, because we want the earth to be for our children and grandchildren in the future. And I also think that tenants and living like a tenant is good for the climate, because caring is sharing. And that's what we do as a tenants. We share playgrounds, we share where we wash our laundries and so on. We are right for the future. I think the way of living as a tenant is so right for the future, so we can be really a strong part of the climate issue. So I say to you all, I hope we will gonna have good days. It's not gonna be like that you're always gonna sit and listen. We're gonna talk to each other. And I hope when we have these round tables that you're gonna talk to each other, and you're also gonna listen to each other to learn about the situation in other countries. So we also can take that back with us and take the fight for the tenants' right all over the world. I'm so proud that I stand here today. My journey started in 1985 when someone knocked at my door. I have been taking fights in my neighborhood. I take fights on the national level, and now I'm going to take fights in the whole world for tenants' rights. Thank you.